Sweeping away the remaining barbarians, the imperial capital was established. The dragon soars and the phoenix dances, with a majestic and towering appearance. On the left, it encircles the boundless sea like a ribbon of the sky, and on the right, it embraces the Taihang Mountains in countless clusters. The weapons and halberds along the 9 frontiers make the border extremely heroic. The people of all nations look up to the imperial court in reverence. In the peaceful era, people are happy, living in a utopian world. The unshakable territory will always shine together with the sun. This poem solely praises the grandeur of establishing the capital in Yanjing in our dynasty. Speaking of the geographical situation of Yanjing, it leans on the powerful pass in the north and overawes the central plains in the south. It is truly a golden city and a heavenly abode, an unshakable foundation for 10,000 years. At first, Emperor Hongwu swept away the dust of the barbarians and established the capital in Jingling, which was Nanjing. When Emperor Yongle rose in arms in Beiping to quell the rebellion and moved the capital to Yanjing, it became Beijing. Just because of this relocation, a cold and bitter place was transformed into a splendid world. From Emperor Yongle, after 9 successions, it came to Emperor Wanli, who was the 11th emperor of our dynasty. This emperor was intelligent, valiant, and possessed both virtue and good fortune. He ascended the throne at the age of 10 and reigned for 48 years, suppressing 3 rebellions. Which 3 were they? Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the regent of Japan, Bojhan Qinzhen of Xixia, and Yang Yinglong of Bazhu. Toyotomi Hideyoshi invaded Korea, and Qinzhen and Yang Yinglong, as local officials, rebelled. They were successively suppressed. The distant barbarians all feared and submitted, vying to come and pay tribute. Truly, one man's blessings bring peace and happiness to the people, and the whole country is free from worries and enjoys tranquility. Let's focus on the 20th year of the Wanli reign. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the regent of Japan, caused chaos and invaded Korea. The king of Korea sent a memorial pleading for help. The imperial court dispatched troops to cross the sea to rescue. An official from the Ministry of Revenue presented and was approved. At present, during the war, the military provisions are not sufficient. Temporarily, the regulation of admitting students to the Imperial Academy by donating grain is opened. Originally, there were several advantages to admitting students to the Imperial Academy by donating grain. It was good for studying, good for the imperial examinations, easy to pass, and finally, there was a small official position as a result. Therefore, the sons of officials and the children of wealthy families did not want to be scholars but went to follow the regulation and become students of the Imperial Academy. Since this regulation was opened, the number of students in the imperial academies of the 2 capitals increased to more than 1,000 respectively. Among them, there was a man named Li Jia, styled Xixian, from Shaoxing Prefecture, Zhejiang Province. His father, Li Buhan, had 3 sons, and Li Jia was the eldest. He had studied in the county school since childhood but had not passed the imperial examinations. He followed the regulation and entered the Imperial Academy in the north. Because he was studying in the Imperial Academy in the capital, he went to the brothel area of the Bureau of Music and Entertainment together with Liu Yachun, a fellow student from his hometown, and met a famous courtesan. That courtesan was named Du Mei, ranked 10th, and was called Du Shiniang in the brothel. She was born elegant and charming all over, with a delicate fragrance throughout her body. Her 2 curved eyebrows were as green as the distant mountains, and her pair of eyes were as clear and moist as the autumn waters. Her face was like a lotus bud, clearly resembling Zhou Wenjun of the Zhou family. Her lips were like cherries, no less beautiful than Fansu of the Bai family. What a pity that this flawless jade had fallen into the world of prostitution. Du Shiniang lost her virginity at the age of 13, and now she was 19. In 7 years, she didn't know how many young masters and noblemen she had encountered. One by one, they were infatuated and were willing to ruin their families and squander their fortunes. 4 lines of doggerel spread in the brothel, saying, "If there is Du Shiniang among the guests, even those with a small capacity can drink 1,000 cups. If one knows Du Laomei in the brothel, the faces of thousands of other courtesans are as ugly as ghosts." It is said that young Master Li was romantic and young and had not met such a beautiful woman before. Since he met Du Shiniang, he was overjoyed and placed all his amorous feelings on her. That young master had a handsome face, a gentle nature, and was also generous with his money and attentive in his support. He and Du Shiniang were a perfect match, deeply in love and in harmony. Du Shiniang, seeing that the madam of the brothel was greedy for money and unrighteous, had long had the intention of leaving the brothel and becoming an honest woman. She also saw that young Master Li was honest and sincere, and she was very much inclined towards him. However, young Master Li was afraid of his father and did not dare to promise. Even so, the affection between the two became closer. They enjoyed each other's company day and night, staying together all the time like a married couple. They made each other solemn vows, with no other intentions. Truly, the kindness is as deep as the sea with no bottom, and the righteousness is as heavy as a mountain and even higher. Let's talk about Madame Du again. Her daughter was occupied by young Master Li, and other wealthy families, upon hearing of her fame and coming to the door, could not even get a chance to see her. At first, when young Master Li was squandering money freely, spending lavishly, the madam fawned on him with a flattering smile, not sparing any effort to flatter him. As days and months passed, more than a year passed unnoticed. Young Master Li's pockets gradually became empty, and he could no longer afford to spend as before. The madam then began to treat him coldly. Old Bahan Li, having heard at home that his son was frequenting the brothel, wrote several times to call him back. But he was infatuated with Du Shiniang's beauty and kept delaying day by day. Later, when he heard that his father was angry at home, he became even more afraid to go back. As the ancients said, those who associate with each other for the sake of profit will drift apart when the profit is exhausted. Du Shiniang and young Master Li were truly in love. Seeing that he had less and less money, her heart became warmer towards him. The madam also several times told her daughter to send Li Jia out of the brothel. Seeing that her daughter didn't agree, she several times used words to provoke young Master Li, trying to make him angry and leave. The young master was naturally gentle and his words became even more conciliatory. The madam had no choice but to scold Du Shiniang every day, saying, "We brothel keepers live off the guests, sending off the old ones at the front door and welcoming the new ones at the back door. Our place should be as bustling as fire, and the money and silk should pile up in heaps. Since that Li Jia has been here for more than a year, not to mention new guests, even the old regular customers have stopped coming. It's like we've received the ghost catcher Zhong Kui. Even the little ghosts don't come to the door. It has made my family have neither energy nor means to make a living. What a mess." Du Shiniang, unable to bear the scolding, replied, "That young Master Li didn't come here empty-handed. He has also spent a lot of money here." The madam said, "That was then, this is now. You just ask him to spend a little money today and give it to me to buy some firewood and rice to support you too. Other people's daughters are like money-making trees, bringing in a lot of money. But we're so unlucky that we've raised a money-losing white tiger. There are 7 essential things when opening the door every day, and all of them fall on me. But I'm raising this poor man for you, this little slut. Where am I supposed to get the food and clothing from? You tell that poor man, if he has the ability to give me a few taels of silver, then you can go with him. Then I can find another girl to make a living. Wouldn't that be better?" Du Shiniang said, "Mom, is this true or false?" The madam knew that Li Jia had not a single coin in his pocket and had pawned all his clothes. She guessed that he had no way to raise the money, so she replied, "I never tell lies. It's true." Du Shiniang said, "Mom, how much silver do you want from him?" The madam said, "For someone else, I would ask for 1,000 taels of silver. But considering that poor man can't afford it, I only want 300 taels. I'll go and find another courtesan to replace you. But there's one condition. He must deliver the money to me within 3 days. When he hands over the silver with his left hand, I'll hand you over with my right hand. If there's no silver in 3 days, I won't care about anything. Whether he's a young master or not, I'll give him a good beating with a cudgel and drive that scoundrel out. Don't blame me then." Du Shiniang said, "Although the young master is short of money while away from home, I think he can manage to raise 300 taels. But 3 days is too soon. It would be better to give him 10 days. The madam thought, this poor man has nothing in his hands. Even if I give him 100 days, where would he get the silver? Without silver, Even if he has a thick skin, he won't have the face to come back. Then I can restore the good order of the brothel, and Mayor won't have anything to say. She replied, for your sake, I'll extend it to 10 days. If there's no silver on the 10th day, it's none of my business. Du Shiniang said, if there's no silver within 10 days, I think he won't have the face to see me again. I'm just afraid that if he has 300 taels of silver, you'll go back on your word. The madam said, I'm 51 years old and I also observe the 10 abstinences. How dare I lie? If you don't believe me, let's clap hands to make a deal. If I go back on my word, I'll be a pig or a dog. The sea has always been difficult to measure with a dipper. It's laughable that the heartless madam has bad intentions. She was sure that the poor scholar's pockets were empty, so she deliberately made it difficult for the pretty girl with the betrothal money. That night, Du Shiniang and the young master discussed their lifelong affairs by the pillow. The young master said, it's not that I don't have this intention. But getting a release from the brothel register costs a lot of money. It requires at least 1,000 taels of silver. I'm as poor as a church mouse. What can I do? Du Shiniang said, I've already made an agreement with my mom that she only wants 300 taels. But he must raise it within 10 days. Although your travel expenses are all gone, surely there must be some relatives and friends in the capital from whom you can borrow? If we can get the full amount, I will belong to you, and I can be free from the madam's abuse. The young master said, among my relatives and friends, because I've been lingering in the brothel, they all ignore me. Tomorrow, I'll pretend to pack my bags and leave, and say goodbye to each of them. Then I'll ask to borrow travel expenses and try to gather the money. Maybe I can reach the required amount. He got up, washed and dressed, and left Du Shiniang and went out. Du Shiniang said, do your best and come back quickly. I'm eagerly waiting for good news. The young master said, don't worry, I know. The young master left the brothel and went to his relatives and friends. He pretended to say that he was leaving and everyone was actually quite happy. Later, when it came to the lack of travel expenses and his intention to borrow money, as the saying goes, when it comes to money, there's no luck. His relatives and friends didn't offer to help. They also had their reasons. They said that young Master Li was a romantic playboy who was infatuated with the courtesans and had not returned home for over a year. His father was so angry at home because of him. Now he suddenly wanted to go back, and they didn't know if it was true or false. If he tricked them into getting the travel expenses and then went to spend it on the courtesans again, and his father found out, their good intentions would turn into bad feelings. In the end, he would still be blamed. It was better to decline him cleanly. So they replied, at present, we are really short of money ourselves and can't help you. We're sorry, sorry. Everyone was like this, and there was not a generous man who was willing to promise him 10 or 20 taels of silver. Young Master Li ran around for 3 consecutive days but got nothing. He didn't dare to go back and tell Du Shiniang the bad news, so he just vaguely promised. On the 4th day, he still had no hope, and he was too ashamed to go back to the brothel. Usually, since he had been with the Du family, he didn't even have a place to stay. Now he had nowhere to spend the night. He had to go to the residence of Lu Jiansheng, his fellow townsman, to borrow a place to stay. Lu Yuchun saw that young Master Li had a deeply worried expression and asked him about the reason. Young Master Li detailed the situation that Du Shiniang was willing to marry him. Yuchun shook his head and said, it's not likely, not likely. Du Mei is the top courtesan in the brothel. When she wants to leave the brothel and become an honest woman, I'm afraid without 10 hu of bright pearls and 1,000 taels of betrothal gifts, it won't be possible. Why does that madam only want 300 taels? I think the madam is annoyed that you have no money to spend and you've been occupying her daughter for nothing. She's devised a plan to send you away. That woman has been with you for a long time, and she's also too embarrassed to say it directly. Knowing that you're short of money, she deliberately offers 300 taels as a favor and gives you a deadline of 10 days. If you don't have the money in 10 days, you won't have the nerve to come back. Even if you do come back, she'll mock and laugh at you, and you'll end up being humiliated. Naturally, you won't be able to stay comfortably. This is a trick of the brothel to drive away unwanted guests. You should think twice and don't be deceived by her. In my humble opinion, it's better to break it off as soon as possible. After hearing this, young Master Li was speechless for a long time, and his heart was filled with doubt. Yuchun added, don't make the wrong decision. If you really go back home, you don't need much travel expenses, and there might still be people willing to help you. But if you need 300 taels, not to mention 10 days, even 10 months would be difficult. In today's society, who would care about the words, urgency and need? That courtesan has also calculated that you have nowhere to borrow money and deliberately makes it difficult for you. Young Master Li said, what you said, my dear brother, is very reasonable. Although he said so, he couldn't bear to part with it in his heart. He still went out to beg and borrow from place to place, but he didn't enter the brothel at night. Young Master Li stayed in Lu Jianshen's residence for 3 consecutive days, and it had been 6 days in total. Du Shiniang was very worried as she hadn't seen young Master Li enter the brothel for several days. She sent the servant boy Seer to look for him on the street. Seer searched on the main street and happened to meet young Master Li. Seer called out, brother-in-law Li, mother is waiting for you at home. Feeling ashamed, young Master Li replied, I don't have the time today. I'll come tomorrow. Ordered by Du Shiniang, Seer grabbed him and refused to let go, saying, mother told me to find you. You must come back with me. Young Master Li also missed the courtesan in his heart. Helplessly, he had to follow Seer into the brothel. When he saw Du Shiniang, he was silent. Du Shiniang asked, how about the thing you were trying to arrange? Tears welled up in young Master Li's eyes. Du Shiniang said, could it be that human relationships are so cold that you can't raise the 300 taels? With tears in his eyes, young Master Li said these 2 lines. I didn't believe that catching a tiger on the mountain was easy, but indeed, asking others for help is really difficult. I've been running around for 6 days, but I haven't gotten even a small amount of money. I'm coming back empty-handed and am ashamed to see you, my dear. That's why I didn't dare to enter the brothel these past few days. Today, because of your call, I've come here despite my shame. It's not that I didn't try my best, it's just that this is how the world is. Du Shiniang said, don't let that heartless madam know this. You can stay here tonight, my dear. I have something else to discuss with you. Du Shiniang prepared wine and dishes herself and had a joyful drink with young Master Li. In the middle of the night, Du Shiniang said to young Master Li, can you really not get even a single coin? What about my lifelong affair? Young Master Li just shed tears and couldn't say a word. Gradually, it was dawn at the 5th watch. Du Shiniang said, there are 150 taels of broken silver hidden in the quilt I'm lying on. This is my personal savings. You can take it. For the 300 taels, I'll take care of half, and you try to get the other half. It might be easier that way. You only have 4 days. Don't be late or make any mistakes. Du Shiniang got up and gave the quilt to young Master Li, who was overjoyed at the unexpected surprise. He called the servant boy to take the quilt and went straight to Lu Yuchun's residence. He told Yuchun what had happened the night before. When they opened the quilt to check, they found that the broken silver was wrapped in the cotton wool. When they took it out and weighed it, it was indeed 150 taels. Yuchun was greatly surprised and said, this woman is truly sincere. Since it's true love, you shouldn't let her down. I'll try my best to help you with this. Young Master Li said, if you can help me succeed, I will definitely not let you down. At that moment, Lu Yuchun let young Master Li stay in his residence and went out himself to borrow money everywhere. Within 2 days, he raised 150 taels and gave them to young Master Li, saying, I borrowed the money for you not for your sake, but really out of pity for Du Shiniang's sincere feelings. Li Jia held the 300 taels of silver. It was like a blessing from heaven, and he beamed with joy. He happily went to see Shiniang. It was only the 9th day, still within the 10-day limit. Shiniang asked, the other day it was so difficult to borrow even a small amount. How did you manage to get 150 taels today? The young master recounted the matter about Lu Jiansheng again. Shiniang put her hands on her forehead and said, it is Mr. Liu's efforts that have enabled the 2 of us to fulfill our wish. The 2 of them were overjoyed and spent another night in the brothel. The next morning, Shiniang got up early and said to Li Jia, once this silver is handed over, I will follow you. We should prepare things like boats and carriages. Yesterday, I borrowed 20 taels of silver from my sisters. You can take it as travel expenses. The young master was just worried about not having enough travel expenses but didn't dare to mention it. He was very glad to receive the silver. Before he could finish speaking, the madam happened to knock on the door and shout, Meyer, today is the 10th day. Hearing the call, the young master opened the door and invited her in, saying, thank you for your kindness, madam. I was just about to invite you. Then he placed the 300 taels of silver on the table. The madam didn't expect the young master to have the silver. She was speechless and her expression changed, as if she had second thoughts. Shiniang said, I have been in your house for 8 years, madam, and the gold and silk I have brought in is no less than several thousand taels. Today, leaving the brothel to become an honest woman is a wonderful thing, and it was also personally agreed upon by you. The 300 taels are not a single cent short, and there is no delay. If you go back on your word and don't allow it, my husband will take the silver and I will commit suicide immediately. I'm afraid that at that time, you will lose both the person and the money, and it will be too late to regret. The madam had nothing to say in reply. After thinking for a while, she had to take the steel yard to weigh the silver accurately and said, since things have come to this, I can't keep you. But if you want to leave, leave now. You can't take even a tiny bit of the clothes, ornaments, and other things you usually wear. After saying that, she pushed the young master and Shiniang out of the room, fetched a lock and locked the door. It was September. Shiniang had just got out of bed and hadn't washed and dressed yet. Wearing her old clothes, she bowed twice to the madam. Young Master Li also bowed. The husband and wife left the heartless madam's gate. The carp has escaped the golden hook, wagging its tail and shaking its head, and will never come back. The young master told Shiniang to wait for a while, I'll call a small sedan chair to carry you. Let's go to Lu Rongking's residence first and then figure out what to do. Shiniang said, my sisters in the brothel have been very close to me on weekdays. It's only right that I say goodbye to them. Besides, the other day they lent me travel expenses. I must thank them. So she and the young master went to each of her sisters to say goodbye. Among the sisters, only Xie Yuelang and Su Susu lived close to the Du family, and they were especially close to Shiniang. Shiniang went to Xie Yuelang's house first. When Yuelang saw Shiniang with a bald hairpin and an old dress, she was shocked and asked the reason. Shiniang told her the whole story and introduced Li Jia to her. Shiniang pointed at Yuelang and said, the travel expenses the other day were lent by this elder sister. You can thank her, my husband. Li Jia bowed repeatedly. Yuelang then asked Shiniang to wash and dress, and at the same time sent someone to invite Su Susu to come home for a gathering. After Shiniang finished washing and dressing, Xie and Su, the two beautiful ladies, took out all they had. Green hairpins, golden bracelets, precious hairpins, and earrings, brocade sleeves, flowery skirts, phoenix belts and embroidered shoes were used to dress up Du Shiniang, making her look brand new. They prepared wine and had a celebration feast. Yuelang gave her bedroom to Li Jia and Du Mei to spend the night. The next day, they held a grand feast and invited all the sisters in the brothel. All those who were close to Shiniang gathered there and toasted the couple to express their joy. There were performances of music, singing and dancing, each showing their talents, trying to make everyone have a good time. They drank until late at night. Shiniang thanked each of her sisters one by one. The sisters said, Sister, she is the leader of the romantic world. Now that you are leaving with your husband, we may not see each other for a long time. When will you set off on your long journey? We sisters will still come to see you off. Yuelang said, when the date is fixed, I will come and inform you. But sister, you will travel a long way with your husband, and your luggage is meager. There is no proper arrangement for you. This is our business. We should discuss it together and make sure you don't have to worry about being in a difficult situation on the way. The sisters all nodded and left. That night, the young master and Shiniang still stayed at the Xie family's place. At the fifth watch, around 3 to 5 a.m., Shiniang said to the young master, where shall we settle down after we leave? Have you come up with a definite plan, my dear? The young master said, my father is extremely angry. If he knows that I'm bringing back a courtesan as my wife, he will surely treat me terribly, and it will only bring trouble to both of us. I've thought about it over and over again, but I still haven't come up with a perfect solution. Shiniang said, the bond between father and son is inborn. How can it be broken forever? Since it's difficult to face him in such a hurry, it would be better for you and me to temporarily live in the scenic places of Suzhou and Hangzhou. You can go back first and ask your relatives and friends to persuade your father to reconcile. Then you can take me back home, and everything will be fine for both of us. The young master said, what you said is very reasonable. The next day, the two of them got up and bid farewell to Xie Yuelang. They temporarily went to Lu Jianshen's residence to pack their luggage. When Du Shiniang saw Lu Yuchun, she bowed down to the ground to thank him for his kindness in helping them out. My husband and I will surely repay you heavily in the future, she said. Yuchun quickly returned the greeting and said, Shiniang, you are deeply in love with the one you like and haven't changed your heart because of poverty. You are truly a heroine among women. I just did it as easily as fanning the fire when there's wind. It's such a small thing that it's not worth mentioning. The three of them drank wine for another day. The next morning, they chose an auspicious day for their journey, hired a sedan chair and horses, and everything was ready. Shiniang also sent a servant boy to send a letter to bid farewell to Xie Yuelang. When they were about to leave, they saw a group of sedan chairs arriving one after another. It was Xie Yuelang and Su Susu who had brought all the other sisters to see them off. Yuelang said, Sister Shi, you are traveling a long distance with your husband, and your purse is empty. We really can't bear to part with you without doing anything. Now we've jointly prepared a small gift of money for your journey. Sister Shi, please accept it. If you're in need during the long journey, it can help a little. After saying that, she ordered a servant to bring a gilded stationery box forward. It was tightly sealed, and no one knew what was inside. Shiniang didn't open it to check, nor did she decline. She just thanked them earnestly. Soon, the sedan chairs and horses were all gathered, and the servants urged them to set off. Lu Jiansheng offered 3 cups of farewell wine, and he and all the beautiful ladies saw them off outside Chongguan Gate. They all parted with tears in their eyes. Truly. It's hard to predict if we'll meet again someday, and parting at this moment is truly pitiful. Let's talk about young Master Li and Du Shiniang. They traveled to the Lu River, where they gave up traveling by land and boarded a boat. Fortunately, there was a messenger boat from Guazhou returning, and they negotiated the boat fare and rented a cabin. By the time they got on the boat, young Master Li had no money left in his pocket. You may wonder how the 20 taels of silver that Shiniang gave to the young master were gone so soon. The young master had worn ragged clothes from his days in the brothel. When he got the money, he couldn't help but redeem some clothes from the pawn shop to wear. He also bought bedding, and what was left was just enough to pay for the sedan chair and horses. The young master was feeling worried and depressed. Shiniang said, Don't worry, my dear. The gifts from my sisters will surely be of some help. Then she took the key and opened the box. The young master felt ashamed beside her and didn't dare to peek at what was really in the box. Shiniang took out a red silk bag from the box and threw it on the table, saying, My dear, you can open it and have a look. The young master picked it up and found it was heavy. When he opened it, he saw that it was all silver, exactly 50 taels in total. Shiniang locked the box again and didn't say what else was in the box. She just said to the young master, Thanks to the kindness of my sisters. Not only will we not lack money on the way, but even when we live temporarily in the regions of Wu and Yu in the future, it can also help cover the expenses for our travels among the mountains and rivers as a couple. The young master was both surprised and delighted, saying, If I hadn't met you, my dear, I, Li Jia, would have been left wandering in a foreign land and would have died without a place to be buried. I will never forget your kindness and love even when I'm old and gray-haired. From then on, every time they talked about the past, the young master would be moved to tears, and Shiniang would also try her best to comfort him. And they had a smooth journey without any special incidents. In a few days, they arrived at Guazhou. The large ship anchored at the riverbank, and the young master hired another civilian boat separately to place their luggage. They planned to cross the river at dawn the next day. It was the middle of midwinter, and the moon was as bright as water. The young master and Shiniang sat at the bow of the boat. The young master said, "Since we left the capital, we've been confined in a cabin. Looking around, there were always people, and we couldn't talk freely. Today, we're alone on this boat, with no need to avoid or be afraid. Moreover, we've left the northern border and are getting closer to the south of the Yangtze River. We should have a good drink to relieve the depression we've had before. What do you think, my dear?" Shiniang said, "I haven't chatted and laughed for a long time, and I also have this idea. What you said shows that we share the same thoughts." The young master then carried the wine utensils to the bow of the boat. He and Shiniang spread a felt mat and sat side by side, passing the cups and toasting each other. When they were half drunk, the young master held a wine cup and said to Shiniang, "My dear, your wonderful singing voice is renowned as the best among the brothels. When I first met you, every time I heard your exquisite melodies, I couldn't help but be entranced. Our hearts have been filled with worries, and we've both been feeling gloomy. I haven't heard your beautiful singing for a long time. Now, with the clear river and bright moon, and no one around in the dead of night, would you please sing a song for me?" Shiniang was also in high spirits. She cleared her throat, took a fan to keep the rhythm, and began to sing softly. She sang the song, "The Scholar in First Place Holds the Cup for the Beauty," from the Yuan Dynasty drama, The Pavilion of Worshipping the Moon, by Shi Junmei, which was called Little Peach Blossom. Truly, her voice soared to the sky that the clouds stopped. Her song resounded so clearly that the fish in the deep springs swam out. There was a young man on another boat. His name was Sun Fu, styled Shanlai, from Xianan, Huizhu. His family was extremely wealthy, and his ancestors had been in the salt business in Yangzhou for generations. He was only 20 years old and was also a fellow student at the Imperial Academy in the south. He was naturally romantic and was used to spending money in brothels, seeking pleasure with beautiful women. When it came to flirting and romancing, he was really a master of frivolity. By chance, that night his boat was also anchored at the Guazhou ferry. He was drinking alone, feeling bored, when suddenly he heard a clear and melodious singing voice. Even the sounds of the wind and the songs of the phoenix could not compare to its beauty. He stood up at the bow of the boat and listened intently for a while before realizing that the voice came from the neighboring boat. Just as he was about to go and visit, the singing suddenly stopped. So he sent a servant to secretly spy on the whereabouts and inquire with the boatman. He only knew that it was a boat hired by Mr. Li, but he had no idea about the origin of the singer. Sun Fu thought, "This singer must not be from a decent family. How can I get to see her?" He thought about it over and over again and couldn't fall asleep all night. When it was the fifth watch, he suddenly heard a strong wind blowing on the river. By dawn, dark clouds covered the sky, and snow was swirling in the air. How could one describe it? There is a poem as evidence. The clouds cover the trees on 1,000 mountains and disappear. Trails on 10,000 paths have no human trace. An old man in coir raincoat and bamboo hat on a small boat. Alone fishing in the snow of the cold river. Because of the wind and snow that blocked the river crossing, the boat couldn't set sail. Sun Fu ordered the boatman to move his boat and anchor it beside the Li family's boat. Wearing a sable hat and a fox fur coat, Sun Fu pushed open the window and pretended to look at the snow. At that moment, Shiniang had just finished washing and dressing. With her delicate hands, she lifted the short curtain beside the boat and poured out the remaining water in the basin. Her powdered face was slightly revealed, and Sun Fu caught a glimpse of her. She was indeed a woman of unparalleled beauty. His heart was filled with longing, and he stared intently, hoping to see her again, but in vain. After thinking for a long time, he leaned against the window and recited 2 lines from the Plum Blossom poem by Gao Sushi. In the snow-covered mountains, a noble scholar lies. In the moonlit forest, a beautiful woman comes. Li Jia heard the poem being recited from the neighboring boat and stretched his head out of the cabin to see who it was. This look was exactly what Sun Fu had planned. Sun Fu had recited the poem just to attract young Master Li to show his head so that he could take the opportunity to start a conversation. He quickly raised his hand and asked, "May I ask your honorable surname and given name, sir?" Li Jia told him his name and hometown. Naturally, he also asked Sun Fu about himself. Sun Fu told his information as well. Then they talked about some idle gossip from the Imperial Academy, and gradually they became more familiar with each other. Sun Fu said, "The wind and snow have stopped our boats, which is fate bringing me and you together. It's really my great pleasure. I'm feeling bored on the boat. I'd like to go ashore with you and have a drink in a tavern, so that I can learn from you. I hope you won't refuse." The young master said, "We've just met by chance. How can I trouble you so much?" Sun Fu said, "What are you saying? All men within the 4 seas are brothers." He ordered the boatman to put out the gangplank and the servant boy to hold an umbrella, and then welcomed the young master to cross to his boat. They bowed to each other at the bow of the boat. Then he let the young master go first and followed behind. They both stepped onto the gangplank and went ashore. They hadn't walked many steps when they saw a tavern. The two of them went upstairs, chose a clean table by the window, and sat down. The waiter brought the wine and dishes. Sun Fu raised his cup to offer a toast, and the two of them enjoyed the snow and drank wine. At first, they talked about some polite and conventional words among the educated, and gradually the conversation turned to matters related to brothels and beautiful women. Since both of them had experience in such matters and shared the same interests, they talked very congenially and became even more like confidants. Sun Fu waved away the attendants around them and asked in a low voice, "Who was the one singing beautifully on your boat last night, sir?" Li Jia was just eager to show off his knowledge in this regard, so he told the truth, "That's Du Shiniang, a famous courtesan from Beijing." Sun Fu said, "Since she's a courtesan, how did she come to be with you?" The young master then told him the whole story of how he first met Du Shiniang, how they became close, how she wanted to marry him later, and how he borrowed money to redeem her. Sun Fu said, "It's indeed a happy thing for you to take such a beautiful woman home. But I wonder if your family will accept her." The young master said, "My wife at home is not a problem. What I'm worried about is that my father has a strict temper, and I'm still hesitant about that." Seizing the opportunity, Sun Fu asked, "Since your father may not accept her, where will you settle the beautiful woman you're bringing? Have you informed her and discussed it together?" The young master frowned and replied, "I've discussed this matter with my concubine." Sun Fu asked eagerly, "Surely your beloved must have a wonderful plan." The young master said, "She wants to live temporarily in Suzhou and Hangzhou, enjoying the beautiful scenery. She asked me to go back first and ask my relatives and friends to persuade my father gently. After my father calms down and becomes happy, then we can plan to go back home. What do you think of this idea, my learned friend?" Sun Fu pondered for a while and deliberately put on a sorrowful expression. He said, "I've just met you, and it may be too presumptuous of me to speak so frankly. I'm afraid you'll be offended." The young master said, "I really rely on your wise advice. Why be so modest?" Sun Fu said, "Your father holds an important position. He will surely be strict about the impropriety of having a woman with a dubious background in the family. Since he's already been angry with you for visiting improper places before, how can he allow you to marry a woman of loose morals today? Moreover, among your relatives and friends, who wouldn't try to please your father? It's in vain for you to ask them. They will surely refuse. Even if there's someone who doesn't know the current situation and tries to speak in your favor to your father, once they see that your father doesn't agree, they'll change their tune. You won't be able to reconcile with your family if you go back, and you won't have a way to reply to your beloved. Even if you stay and enjoy the scenery in Suzhou and Hangzhou, it's not a long-term solution. What if you run out of money? Won't you be in a dilemma, neither able to go forward nor backward?" The young master knew that he only had 50 taels of silver left in his hand, and most of it had been spent by now. When Sun Fu mentioned running out of money and being in a dilemma, he couldn't help but nod in agreement. Sun Fu continued, "I have some heartfelt words to say. Will you listen to me, sir?" The young master said, "I'm really grateful for your concern. Please go ahead and speak your mind." Sun Fu said, "An outsider should not interfere in the affairs of a family. Maybe I'd better not say it." The young master said, "It doesn't matter. Just say it." Sun Fu said, "As the old saying goes, women are as changeable as water. Moreover, those in the brothels are mostly false and few are sincere. Since she's a famous courtesan in the brothels, she must have acquaintances all over the world. Maybe she had an old agreement in the south and used your help to bring her there, so that she can find another place to settle down. The young master said, I'm afraid that's not the case. Sun Fu said, if not, the young men in the south of the Yangtze River are especially good at being frivolous. If you leave the beautiful woman alone, it's hard to guarantee that there won't be any improper behavior like climbing over walls or sneaking through windows. If you take her home with you, it will only make your father even angrier. As far as I can see for you, there's no good solution. Besides, the bond between father and son is something that can't be broken. If you anger your father because of a concubine and abandon your family because of a courtesan, people all over the country will think of you as a frivolous and unreliable person. In the future, your wife won't consider you as a husband, your younger brother won't consider you as an elder brother, and your friends won't consider you as a comrade. How will you be able to stand in the world? You must think carefully about this today. Hearing this, the young master looked dazed and lost. He moved his seat closer and asked for advice. According to your wise opinion, what can you teach me? Sun Fu said, I have a plan that is very convenient for you. But I'm afraid you're so deeply in love with your concubine that you may not be able to carry it out, making my words in vain. The young master said, if you really have a good plan that can make me enjoy the happiness of my home again, you will be my benefactor. Why should you be afraid to speak out? Sun Fu said, you have been wandering away from home for more than a year. Your strict father is angry with you, and your wife at home is disheartened. Putting myself in your position, I can truly understand that it's a time when you can't sleep or eat peacefully. The reason why your father is angry with you is just that you've been obsessed with courtesans, squandering money like dirt. He's afraid that you will become a person who abandons his family and squanders his property in the future and is unworthy of inheriting the family business. You're going back home empty-handed now, which will just make him angrier. If you can give up your love for your concubine and act according to the situation, I'm willing to give you 1,000 taels of silver as a gift. If you get the 1,000 taels of silver and tell your father that you've been teaching in a private school in the capital and haven't wasted a single cent, your father will surely believe you. From then on, your family will be harmonious, and there will be no more complaints. In an instant, you can turn misfortune into good fortune. Please think carefully. I'm not coveting the beauty of your concubine. I'm really trying my best to be loyal to you. Li Jia was originally a man without much decision-making ability. He was afraid of his father at heart. After hearing Sun Fu's words, which revealed all his doubts, he stood up and bowed, saying, after hearing your great teachings, I've suddenly been enlightened. But my concubine has accompanied me from thousands of miles away. It's hard to break with her so abruptly. Please allow me to go back and discuss it with her. If she agrees in her heart, I will come back and let you know. Sun Fu said, when you talk to her, you should be gentle and roundabout. Since she's loyal to you, she surely won't bear to make you and your father separate. She will definitely help you make it possible to go back home. The two of them drank for a while. The wind stopped and the snow ceased, and it was getting late. Sun Fu told his servant boy to pay the wine money, and then he and the young master walked hand in hand back to the boat. Truly, when you meet someone, only tell them 3/10 of what you know. Don't reveal all your thoughts at once. Now, let's talk about Du Shiniang. In the boat, she had set out wine and fruits, intending to have a small drink with the young master. But he didn't come back all day, so she lit the lamp and waited for him. When the young master got back to the boat, Shiniang stood up to greet him. Seeing that the young master looked hasty and seemed unhappy, she filled a cup with hot wine and tried to persuade him to drink. The young master shook his head and refused to drink. He didn't say a word and went straight to bed and fell asleep. Shiniang was unhappy. She tidied up the cups and plates, undressed the young master, and helped him lie down on the pillow. Then she asked, what did you see or hear today that makes you so gloomy? The young master just sighed and still didn't open his mouth. After asking him 3 or 4 times, the young master had already fallen asleep. Shiniang couldn't make up her mind and sat by the bedside, unable to fall asleep. In the middle of the night, the young master woke up and sighed again. Shiniang said, What's the matter that you can't tell me, my dear, that makes you sigh so often? The young master sat up wrapped in the quilt. He tried to speak several times but then held back, and tears streamed down his face. Shiniang held the young master in her arms and comforted him softly, saying, "My dear, we've been in love for 2 years. We've gone through countless hardships and difficulties to get to where we are today. During the thousands of miles we've traveled together, we've never been sad. Now that we're about to cross the river and look forward to a lifetime of happiness, why are you suddenly feeling sad? There must be a reason. Between husband and wife, we should share life and death. If there's anything, we can discuss it. Please don't hide it from me." Forced repeatedly, the young master had to say with tears in his eyes, "I was poor and in a difficult situation far from home. You, my dear, didn't abandon me and followed me through thick and thin. This is truly a great kindness. But after thinking about it over and over again, my father holds an important position and is bound by etiquette and law. Moreover, he has a strict nature. I'm afraid that if I take you home, it will make him even angrier and he will surely expel me. If we keep wandering, where will it end? The happiness between husband and wife can't be guaranteed, and the relationship between father and son will be broken. During the day, my friend Sun from Xianan invited me to have a drink and he discussed this matter for me. My heart is breaking." Shiniang was greatly shocked and asked, "What do you want to do, my dear?" The young master said, "I'm too involved in this matter and can't see clearly. My friend Sun has come up with a plan for me, which is quite good. But I'm afraid you won't agree to it." Shiniang said, "Who is this friend Sun? If the plan is really good, why can't I agree to it?" The young master said, "My friend Sun's name is Sun Fu. He's a salt merchant from Xianan and a young and romantic man. He heard your beautiful singing at night and asked about it. I told him our story and the reason why it's difficult for us to go back home. He wants to offer 1,000 taels of silver to marry you. If I get the 1,000 taels of silver, I can use it as an excuse to see my parents, and you will also have a place to go. But I can't bear to part with you, so I'm crying." After saying that, his tears fell like rain. Shiniang let go of her hands and gave a cold laugh, saying, "The person who came up with this plan for you is really a great hero. You will get back the 1,000 taels of silver, and I will marry someone else, and I won't be a burden to you on your journey. It starts from love and ends with propriety. It's really a convenient plan for both of us. Where is the 1,000 taels of silver?" The young master stopped crying and said, "Without your promise, the money is still with him and I haven't received it yet." Shiniang said, "Promise him quickly tomorrow morning. Don't miss the opportunity. But since the 1,000 taels of silver is a big deal, you must make sure that the money is fully paid and handed over to you before I go to his boat. Don't be deceived by that merchant." It was already the 4th watch. Shiniang got up, lit the lamp, and started to wash and dress. She said, "Today's makeup is for welcoming the new and sending off the old. It's not like usual." So she carefully applied rouge and perfume, and dressed up meticulously. She wore a flowered head-dress and an embroidered jacket, looking extremely gorgeous. The fragrance of her perfume wafted around, and she was dazzlingly beautiful. Just as she finished dressing up, it was already dawn. Sun Fu sent his servant boy to the bow of the boat to wait for news. Shiniang secretly glanced at the young master and saw that he seemed to be happy. So she urged the young master to go and reply quickly and get the silver paid in full as soon as possible. The young master went to Sun Fu's boat in person and replied that he agreed. Sun Fu said, "Paying the silver is an easy thing, but I need your concubine's dressing table as a token." The young master went back and told Shiniang. Shiniang pointed at the gilded stationery box and said, "You can take it away." Sun Fu was very happy. He immediately sent 1,000 taels of silver to the young master's boat. Shiniang personally checked it and found that the silver was of full purity and the amount was exactly right. There was no discrepancy. Then she held the side of the boat and waved to Sun Fu. When Sun Fu saw her, he was almost beside himself. Shiniang opened her red lips and white teeth and said, "You can send that box here for a while. There's a travel permit for Mr. Li in it. You can take it out and return it to him." Sun Fu thought that Du Shiniang was already in his grasp, so he ordered his servant boy to send the gilded stationery box and place it on the bow of the boat. Shiniang took the key and opened the lock. Inside were small drawers and boxes. Shiniang asked the young master to open the first drawer. They saw that it was filled with green feathers, bright hairpins, precious jade hairpins, and earrings, which were worth several hundred taels of silver. Shiniang immediately threw them into the river. Li Jia, Sun Fu, and the people on the two boats were all astonished. She then asked the young master to open another box. It contained jade flutes and golden pipes. She asked him to open another box, which was filled with ancient jade and purple gold ornaments, worth several thousand taels of silver. Shiniang threw all of them into the river. The people on the bank crowded around to watch. They all said in unison, "What a pity! What a pity!" They didn't know what was going on. Finally, she opened another box, and there was a small case inside. When she opened the case, there were about a handful of luminous pearls. There were also other rare treasures like emeralds and cat's eyes, which were things they had never seen before and couldn't determine the value of. The crowd cheered in unison, and the noise was like thunder. Shiniang was about to throw them into the river as well. Li Jia couldn't help but regret it deeply. He held Shiniang and cried bitterly. Sun Fu also came to persuade her. Shiniang pushed the young master aside and cursed Sun Fu. "Li Lang and I have endured countless hardships. It wasn't easy for us to get here. You, with your lecherous intentions, used clever words to slander us. You've broken our marriage and severed our love. You're my enemy. If I have a soul after death, I will surely complain to the gods. Do you still dare to dream of having pleasure with me?" Then she said to Li Jia, "I've been in the brothel for several years and have secretly saved some money, which was originally for my lifelong plan. Since I met you, we made an oath to each other that our love would last until we were old. When we left the capital, I pretended that it was a gift from my sisters. There were hundreds of treasures hidden in the box, worth no less than 10,000 taels of silver. I wanted to use it to help you with your journey home so that when you saw your parents, they might pity my sincerity and accept me to help with the household affairs, and I could finally entrust my life to you. Then I would have no regrets whether I live or die. Who knew that you didn't trust me deeply and were influenced by unfounded rumors? You abandoned me halfway and betrayed my sincere love. Today, in front of everyone, I open the box and show these treasures, so that you can know that getting 1,000 taels of silver is not a difficult thing for me. I have jade in my box, but I'm sorry that you're blind and can't recognize its value. I was born at an unlucky time. I was trapped in the brothel and suffered. Just when I managed to get out, I was abandoned again. Now everyone here has eyes and ears and can be my witnesses. I haven't betrayed you, but you have betrayed me." At this, all the people watching were moved to tears and they all cursed Li Jia for being heartless and ungrateful. Li Jia was ashamed, bitter, regretful, and crying. He was just about to apologize to Shiniang. But Shiniang held the precious box and jumped into the middle of the river. The people hurriedly called out to rescue her, but they only saw the dark clouds over the river and the rolling waves. There was no trace of her. What a pity that such a beautiful and famous courtesan was buried in the belly of the river fish. Her 3 souls drifted faintly to the water palace. And her 7 spirits slowly entered the underworld. At that time, all the people watching were gnashing their teeth and eager to beat Li Jia and Sun Fu. Li Jia and Sun Fu were so flustered that they didn't know what to do. They quickly ordered the boats to set sail and fled in different directions. In the boat, Li Jia looked at the 1,000 taels of silver and thought of Shiniang. He felt ashamed and regretful all day long and became mad with depression. He never recovered for the rest of his life. Since that day, Sun Fu was so frightened that he fell ill and lay in bed for more than a month. He always saw Du Shiniang scolding him beside him and finally died feebly. People thought it was retribution from the river. Now, let's talk about Liu Yuchun. He finished his studies in the Imperial Academy in the capital, packed his luggage, and went back home. He anchored his boat at Guobu. By chance, when he was washing his face by the river, his copper basin fell into the water. He asked a fisherman to salvage it. When it was finally brought up, it was a small box. Yuchun opened the box and saw that it was filled with bright pearls and rare treasures, priceless jewels. Chun rewarded the fisherman generously and kept the box by his bedside to play with. That night, he dreamed that a woman came walking on the waves in the river. When he looked closely, it was Du Shiniang. She came forward and curtsied, telling him about Li Jia's heartlessness. She also said, "Before, you were generous and helped us with 150 taels of silver. My original intention was to repay you slowly after I settled down. I didn't expect that things didn't work out in the end. But I always remember your kindness and can't forget it. This morning, I entrusted a small box to the fisherman to give to you, just to show my gratitude. We won't see each other again from now on." After saying that, he suddenly woke up and realized that Shiniang was already dead. He sighed for many days. Later generations commented on this matter, thinking that Sun Fu schemed to seize the beautiful woman and casually spent 1,000 taels of silver. He was definitely not a good man. Li Jia didn't understand Du Shiniang's sincere heart and was a mediocre and stupid man, not worth mentioning. Only Du Shiniang was regarded as a heroic woman through the ages. Couldn't she find a good partner to live with like the legendary couple on the Qin Tower? But she misidentified young Master Li. She was like a bright pearl and a beautiful jade given to a blind man, which led to their love turning into hatred. All the deep love was gone like flowing water, which was really a pity. There is a poem saying, "Don't talk about love if you don't understand it." Just the word love is hard to understand. If you can truly understand the word love, you can be called romantic without feeling ashamed.